Hello and welcome to the Beginner's Guide to Generative AI video number 2. Welcome. There are 2 videos in this series. This is the second one. The first one was about what is generative AI, and this is all about uses and examples. Very inspirational uses, but also very practical uses as well. So hopefully something in here for everybody. Secondly, who is this guy? Well, I am Dino. I was in the first video. I'm the same Dino. Welcome. I will be your guide for this video. All you need to know is I like shirts, I do creative, innovation and business, and I like mischief as well. So some of the examples in here are maybe things you haven't seen before, but I think they're all very relevant. We'll also cover some big stuff. So what are the main uses of generative AI? Who are the leaders in the area? Probably no surprises, some of the names. What are the smaller tools, more relevant tools for you maybe? And maybe some inspiration at the end that are just a little bit weirder. Maybe you use as a dinner party in the conversation, but maybe inspires as well. So first of all, let's have a look at the main uses of Gen AI. What is it being used for? I used this slide in the first video, but I'll go through it anyway because it summarizes it well. It's used for chatbots, script writing, summarizing large pieces of text, code generation and optimization. It can generate speech, for instance, images. It can manipulate those as well, videos, animation. It can generate synthetic data. So if you've got a business hypothesis, it can generate the data to test that out. It can classify objects using computer vision, cameras, images, that sort of thing. And also it can interrogate data. So it sort of democratizes access to data because you can use large amounts of data and ask of it using normal language. There is an AI for that, is a website. It does what it says on the tin. If you're thinking of an idea, you're thinking, is there an AI for comparing cats, for instance, then maybe go to there's an AI for that and search for it. Even if you don't use any of these models, at least you know there's something on there and you can go and research it. But generally speaking, if you're thinking of it, there's probably an AI for that right now. So just be inspired by what's already out there. You might not need to reinvent the wheel, so to speak. So who are the big leaders in this area? As I said, no surprises. It's the likes of Microsoft, Google, IBM, Amazon, Meta, and others, X, formerly Twitter. But also you've got OpenAI, and there's another company called Anthropic, who some of the other companies are underpinned by companies like OpenAI, Anthropic, etc., etc. So Microsoft is powered by OpenAI. Google have their own, IBM have their own. They all have their own large language models. They all have their own chat bot, essentially. They can all generate images. They have an image generator, video generator, and also they all have their platform. If you would like to generate or make something in the AI world on their platform, they will happily offer you the way of doing that on a corporate level. So all the big companies are trying to own this area. There are lots of smaller companies that are all trying to take out a niche area as well. So if you're talking about brand, or if you're doing, for instance, health and personal stuff, chat, whatever, voice, music, there is probably an AI for that as well. Those large companies we've looked at, by the way, are all trying to hoover up those small use cases. So they're trying to become what's called multimodal. So Gemini from Google, OpenAI, also powered Microsoft, and Grok, etc., they are all trying to do everything in their next version. So just be aware, if you're talking to a small company, then maybe just keep an eye on the big companies, whether they are going to offer that in the future. Or if you're doing something from a big company, go and have a look at a small company, see if they do it better. ChatGPT is a name you should know and probably have experience of, but just be aware there is obviously a free version. Don't put anything controversial or a business case into the free version because it is training their model. And also, if you do go into that world, there is a corporate version which has got privacy triggers on it as well. So please do not put anything into ChatGPT that you wouldn't put on a billboard, essentially. That is the advice. Claude is very similar to ChatGPT. You may not have heard of it, but it is it's a large language model. It's a chatbot, but it is trained as what they call more human principles. It uses a constitutional AI. The training data is all being ethically sourced, and some of the decisions it will make are gated so that it only gives you ethical and human valued responses. Grok is on the other side of that spectrum, and this is from Elon Musk's X company, formerly Twitter, obviously. And it's all been trained on social media posts, or most of it has, or a big section of it has. And it's said to be, more free speech, but also more humorous, but also less accurate. So you can choose your large language model and your text model wisely. There are lots out there is the point. Microsoft Copilot uses OpenAI's all good stuff and it empowers it within all of their Office 365 suite. So it can do things like be essentially a co-pilot to you in your business world. If you have written an email to somebody and you can't quite remember what was in it, or if you've had a meeting and you want to paraphrase the notes or find out who said something, it will be all over all of your applications and it will be pulling out those things as though you had a personal assistant. So that's Microsoft Copilot. Midjourney are the people who generate probably the best images right now. It does come with a little bit of an interesting side problem in that you can only generate those on Discord. Discord is a little bit like, I guess, Twitter or a little bit like Facebook. It's a public blog. And you can see here, this is me taking a screenshot of it. This is the free version. If you type anything into it and it generates the image, everybody can see it. So please do not try and say, here's my new product. Please give me an interesting visual of it, because everybody will see that as well. There are paid for private versions of it as well, but that is Midjourney. A lot of people use that for images. Runway ML is a text to video platform, and a lot of people will take, for instance, their Midjourney images and then use this to animate them. And this is their motion brush, for instance. You can have up to 5 areas of an image and you just say, I'd like these places to be animated, and you tell it where you want them to go and it will animate them. So it's a really good way of making short videos using images and reanimating them. That's Runway ML. OpenAI, the people behind ChatGPT, also have their own text to video platform, but they haven't launched it yet. It's called Sora, and they think it's too powerful, too dangerous for the public to use, especially the head of an American election. So it hasn't been released yet, but some creators have had a chance to do it. Turns out some of these video sequences have been post-produced, so it might not be quite as good as this. However, it's pretty impressive. And also just to say, look, if you're using mobile phones, you probably used AI anyway, but Apple have really gone into it in a big way. They are notorious for waiting on the outside of an industry until it gets to a certain point and then jumping in doing the right thing. So just be aware, it is infused in most platforms now, Android, Apple, etc. So it's in there, it's in the next ones, it's the big noise for Apple. Amazon also are upgrading their Alexa. You'll be probably glad to hear. Classic Alexa is the old version, which will still be free, but it's still pretty terrible. The new remarkable Alexa will be your personal assistant for your life. So you can ask of it all sorts of things and it will give you opinions and it will help you connect your daily life together. So for $10 a month, that will be what you get. 11 Labs are the people who generate speech and voices. They can translate live, for instance, into different languages. And also they can mimic celebrities or mimic yourself or whoever your spokesperson is. And those are the main big ones. So you will hear those in the press all the time. But there are some smaller ones, also smaller applications of those that are still quite useful. And I'll go through those now. GPT Store, by the way, Gemini has gems, so that's the Google version, allow you to write your own chatbots directly in the interface. So if you do have access to ChatGPT and you've paid your monthly subscription, about $10 or something, then you get access to these. You can create your own chatbots, train it yourself, and you can share it amongst your friends, and it will be essentially a chatbot in your own tone of voice. Lots of people have written other ones that are freely available as well. So Wolfram, if you're doing, data analysis, that sort of thing, they are available. Adobe have infused AI into nearly everything they do, and this is their Firefly AI, and it sits within all of their product suite. So Photoshop, After Effects, Illustrator. In Photoshop, if you do really want to edit your scenes, you can now do it using a text prompt. Likewise, at the bottom is Photoshop. If you really want to go and create templates, do style transfer, you want to edit an image, you can do it just using language and words. Otter is all about taking notes, but also giving you insight from those notes. So it can do it from speech, or it can do it from a text corpus as well. So you basically record your conversation, and at the end of it, you can then get insights. Who spoke the most? Who came up with that idea? What are the notes I should take? What are the 3 bullet points I should take away? Summarize whatever you want to do. So that's kind of interesting. There are also devices. This is Claude, by the way, which depending on what country and what situation, this is highly illegal or a brilliant thing. It will actually record and put all of that in a device. So you can go into a meeting with it in your top pocket and come out of it, all your notes are written up already. Interesting in the agent world as well. So if you've got your customer agents summarizing phone calls, something like that is useful. Jasper is about tone of voice. This is about corporate text. So if you have your brand tone of voice, you upload all of your documents, it will learn what your tone of voice is. You can guide it as well. And then you can just type in any old thing and it will convert it into your tone of voice. So great for web copy, great for promotional copy or long copy, whatever you want to do. AI Drive is very practical, very simple. It only works on PDFs. You upload all of your PDFs into a virtual box, a little bit like Dropbox, and then it will then give you access to a large language model, and it learns everything inside those PDFs. So if you've got all of your sales data, it will be able to tell you all of the stats of your sales data, the trends. If you want to write a blog post, it'll tell you what the most interesting things are. You want to strip out all the URLs, it will do that. So it's kind of interesting. Shopify have this built-in thing called Sidekick. This is not relevant if you don't use Shopify, but it's still an interesting concept. If you run a web shop and you want an AI to help you as an assistant, that's what Sidekick does. Maybe you have a product that isn't selling and you want it to go on promotion. It will tell you what it thinks the price should be. And then you say, oh, great, can you put it on promotion for me? It will change your homepage. It will put a sale on it. It will give you a price and it will do all of that for you. So it's like having a designer and a producer and a web dev all in one go. So useful. Neptune is a stock experiment tracker. So it can ingest 100,000 data points per second. And then it will give you all of the versions of what might happen given lots of different ways. So it'll tell you whether you should be shorting and longing, and it will give you probably the best probability of each one of those, and you can choose what you want to do with your stocks. It will also show you some of the outlier data that is interesting. Maybe that's a separate trade, or if this is just your corporate sales data, you can interrogate what's going to happen and predict in the future. So lots of examples of this, where some experiments where they've actually got 500% on a stock exchange using this. There are other models that don't, so again, it's the same random variable. Don't do gambling or betting or stock analysis using AI is my advice. This is HeyGen. This creates avatars. This is not actually me. This is my avatar. It took 30 seconds of video to train it on my avatar and also 2 minutes to record my voice. And now all I do is I can just type in some text, give it some guidelines, and it will generate a video. Quite useful if you're talking to your customers or want to send out some maybe promotional material or have guides on your website. Reloom allows you to create demo websites, or at least get you the first step of your own website or maybe your next website very quickly. It does the UX, UI, and it does it all with a text prompt, and it's collaborative as well. So if you say, I would like a website for a cat home, for instance, it will already know what that maybe should have in it. It will pre-populate everything, and you can then tell it how you would like it to change. So you can become your own web dev just using text. Exactly AI is on the images version of that. So if you have your corporate style, you have images, you have icons, whatever you have, you feed it into Exactly AI. It's private. It trains itself to create things that look like your style, and then you just use text from that point. So if you'd like more of these, it gives you options and you choose the one that is more like it. So interesting for creating more corporate imagery. Napkin is probably on the more technical side of that. It creates diagrams for you. So if you have some text, it can read the text, it can understand what the text is trying to talk about and suggest different diagrams that might help visualize it. It's up to you which one you choose and then which style you choose after that. But it's really interesting if you have a presentation or maybe you need something just to demonstrate some text, then that is an option. Rufus is not available to you because it's an Amazon product, but it's an interesting concept of if you do have a product bot or a customer bot, this is aware of stuff on the outside of your product or your company. So for instance, in this case, trail running shoes, what's good, what's trendy, what's now, are these good? It can use reference that's in the rest of the internet. It goes and learns there and brings it in and then makes a recommendation. So Rufus is an interesting concept. As in Hume.ai, so this is all about voice. And I implore you to go and have a look at Hume demo. It speaks a sentence in the same way, and then you can then change how it says the sentence, whether it's more sad, whether it's more enthusiastic, whether it's curious, whether it's with contempt, with awe, and everything in between as well. So if you have a video and you want to change the tone of your video, or a live interaction where you need to match a customer, for instance, in both ways, either match them or change them, then that's a really interesting way of doing it, using real-time speech deformation to create some sort of character. Neurologics uses computer vision, as you're seeing here. It uses a 30-second video selfie, as they call it, to then scan and measure over 100 health parameters. Haven't got a full list of them, but some of them are here, as you can see. It's used for medical professionals to diagnose or at least help with the prognosis and also the ongoing maintenance of a patient. So whatever those things are, mental stress, heart rate, breathing, respiratory rate, it can sense all of that from a selfie apparently. So there you go. Interesting to use. And they also have what's called a magic mirror. So you can imagine this in a doctor's surgery, sit down in front of that, or a remote consultation uses this sort of data. Hugging Face, by the way, this is the last one, and this is where the nerds go like me to find out all the cool stuff. So if you are remotely looking at the technical side of this, then head over to Hugging Space and see what's going on. If you would then like to start developing something, Hugging Space or Hugging Face is where you do that on a Hugging Face space. So go to Hugging Face, have a look what's around. If you think there's even an idea that you've got whizzing around in your head, have a look, search for it. It probably exists already. See what other people have done with it. It's a very interesting place to be. Okay, some more curious examples. Maybe these are the things you talk about at dinner parties, but also maybe they just inspire a little twinkle in your eye. This video was created in 9 hours by one person. The lyrics to the song that you can't hear, by the way, were generated by ChatGPT. Basically, the visuals were created in Midjourney. Those were then animated, as we know, in Runway ML. And then this is all kind of linked together using a thing called Comfy UI, which I don't need to go into, but it was generated by one person in 9 hours, which is amazing. This is screenshot to code. This is a demo using an early version of ChatGPT 4 with Vision, or ChatGPT 4V as it was called. You screenshot something and it will then use its Vision multimodal, and it will then know what it's looking at, and it will then generate another website that uses exactly the same look and feel. It will generate the code for you. So if you're doing demos or you just want to see whether something's possible to put in front of a customer to get some feedback, you can do it pretty quickly. That's very interesting. Alibaba, yes, this is the Chinese eBay, I guess, or Amazon. They have this thing because they know that creating videos along with products makes you sell more videos. So they have created their own what's called emote. There are lots of these, style transfer as it's technically called in the world. But you take a reference image and you apply it to something else. So you record your own video. This could be you in your bedroom at home, just talking. It then augments the voice. So it changes the voice and it augments the image as well. So it not only doesn't sound like you anymore, but doesn't look like you anymore, but you are then puppeting the video. Kind of interesting. Very interesting experiment this. So this is using a Sims game, so a simulator game. And instead of each one of the characters being computer controlled or human controlled, it gave each character access to its own ChatGPT, and it gave it a brief: please make a computer game. So it then generated a company. It said, right, I'm the CEO, I'm the CTO, I'm the development department, there's a graphics department, a promotions department, HR department to keep everybody happy. And it then generated the code. The code was then tested by the testers, the virtual testers, and it then went back to the coders to fix it. It then went to the graphics department to make it look good. It launched it, and those games are playable on the website. All of that took 7 minutes from the brief to product. So it's really interesting. If you're thinking of a new, maybe an idea, then maybe you try it in this first and see how they did it, and maybe that affects how you do it in real life. This is Toys R Us, just proving that real companies are using it for real. Again, you've seen it before, Midjourney images all strung together with something like a video generation. I'm not quite exactly sure what they use. It's probably Runway ML, but they've created a video. It's all about the backstory of Toys R Us. So it looks a little bit like AI generated imagery right now, but this will only get better. But just be aware that's the first advert that uses Gen AI that's gone real. This is the AI, and it uses technical drawings to then instantly read them and project them into 3D for manufacturing. So whether that's additive or whether it's proper manufacturing. So if you create physical products, then this is maybe an interesting thing to do. And Niantic, there's two things here that are interesting. Yes, it's augmented reality and that uses all sorts of good stuff, but really it's about the QR code. If you train a diffusion model, see previous video about what one of those is, but if you train a diffusion model on QR codes, you can then just get the essence of your QR code and then start adding things to it. So this is a scannable QR code, but it also looks like a beautiful landscape with volcanoes and ice and fire. Great. So if your product, for instance, was a QR code, you can just have a poster or just have an image that says, take a picture of this poster and you will go to more information. And it will look beautiful as well. It won't look like a square of black and white squares. Udio creates music, so if you need music for the background of something, then really interesting, but you can customize it as well. You type in your lyrics and it will generate the audio, the voice, whether it's rap or whatever it needs to be, it will generate it, and you apparently have the rights to use this in the open world as well. Don't know how it's trained, so we need to be a little bit careful there. And this is text to 3D object. So if you are in the manufacturing world again and you need to have some sample products, you can then coax it into creating these objects, and then you can then use those objects to do visuals. There is another version of this that simplifies the mesh, how complex these things are, so they can actually be manufactured or 3D printed as well. So creating essentially lots of examples of what it might look like are very easy now. You don't need to necessarily do lots of 3D modeling. This is maybe a little bit on the sketchy side, should we call, but this is scrape graph. You point this AI at somebody else's website or even your own website, and it reads everything on the website, just like Google would do when they're indexing a page on the internet. But what it then does is it uses a language model to understand the relevance of every single thing on the website. And it can then give you this diagram of how everything is interconnected. What are the main points? What are the spin-off points? What are the main areas of this website? So it basically categorizes everything on your website in sense of the relative distance from what they're relevant to. So really interesting if you want to understand maybe a competitor, maybe a blog where a customer's talking about things and what relevance does everything have. SoftBank is a Japanese investment bank, I think they are, and they deployed AI in a really interesting way. Some of the people calling into their helpline were being a bit annoying, a bit abusive to their staff, and obviously their agents on the end of the phone, that's not a great thing. So they deployed AI to understand the emotional content of the people phoning in. And if they actually found it, they real-time translated it using another AI so that the agent on the end of the phone actually had a translated version that was in a nicer voice, that was in a better tone. So they both got the conversation done, but the AI was in the middle, mediating the voice of the customer to the agent, which is kind of interesting. And this is just video generated using lots of, for instance, gymnastics or weightlifting or American football. And if you then just say, just do videos, this is the sort of thing it generates, which has its own aesthetic, has its own thing. We're starting to see more and more of these on the internet. And this is brain reading, so it's using a large language model trained on brain data to then try and figure out whether it can read your mind. So if you look at what this chap here is trying to think, a fairy tale was filled with magical adventures in a charming enchanted forest. He's thinking that very clearly. The AI, ChatGPT, is actually translating that as a fairy tale had lots of magic, a journey, forest, magic. It's close enough, right? That's really interesting. Imagine knowing what your customers actually think. And finally, we're starting to see a really interesting about turn. So designers and artists are fighting back against their art being trained into these big models. And they're putting what's called adversarial pixels. This is an example of a platform where you can do that. So this is called Nightshade. If you have images on the internet, you run it through a product called Nightshade and it adds special pixels to your image. If you have a picture of a dog, it puts pixels in that image where AI is a training. It looks like a cat as far as the AI is concerned, because these pixels are very specific. We can't see them, but the AI thinks they're very important. If that gets trained into the model again, the next time it sees those, more cat pixels start to appear in the final outputs. And as you can see, dogs, if you say, please generate me a dog, it actually generates a cat because it's got so many cat pixels in its training data, it thinks it's a cat. It's a very complicated idea, but artists are protecting their work now by poisoning the big models. So we need to watch out for this sort of thing starting, that if it goes more and more in this direction, the big AI models might start to struggle a little bit. Something to think about. Some words of wisdom. So stand on the shoulders of giants. All of these examples are really interesting, but they're still very early adopters. Some are just enthusiastic experiments. Others are onto something. So there's always an opportunity to learn in all of this though. So lean in is the only thing I can really say. It is your turn now, so embrace your learning journey. Please be excited by this because it is an exciting time to be alive, but focus on the business value. Ignore a lot of the hype, it is not useful. Collaborate and share your ideas internally. If somebody's thinking it, find somebody else who's got the enthusiasm like you as well. And always treat your AI as a co-pilot. It will make you better. It will make a super you if you use it as a co-pilot. And let's just remember the sensible view from video 1. It can improve your customer experiences. It can improve your employee productivity. Embrace the opportunity. It's not going away. It's not the metaverse. It's not NFTs. This is a whole new thing. but it's been around for 70 years, by the way. And do it thoughtful and responsibly as well. That's the only thing you need to take away from this. Yes, you should actually embrace it, but do it in a thoughtful and responsible way. So what will you create with generative AI? What ideas have you got? That's what the business really needs right now. So Phew, you made it. Well done. Thank you for watching both videos. Hopefully you did. If you like this stuff, great. I do this every Monday morning, scanning QR code, obviously human generated QR code. But other than that, hopefully this has been useful. Hopefully if you have watched both videos, then you have a better understanding of generative AI, and good luck.